Greetings! We are the Basic Liches. We are two dungeon masters trying to learn Pathfinder 2nd Edition for the first time. Today, we are going to be running the Champion, which is basically Pathfinder's Paladin.
As with each of our other class videos, this is not going to be a deep dive into the mechanics of the Champion, and we are also only going to be covering the rules and mechanics from the core rulebook.
So we're going to do a basic overview, go over some of the mechanics that the Champion has for us, and then we're going to give you a day in the life of a Champion, a full day of adventuring, and what that looks like. And maybe by the end of this, as a player, you'll figure out whether you want to play one or not.
And finally, we'll have some Game Master tips for champions in the party if they're at your table. First things first, let's get into the themes of the Champion class. The vibes we're getting when we crack open the core rulebook. What are we thinking about? This looks like the Paladin. I think you mentioned that in the intro. You are going to be a religious warrior who has a deity, and you are beating down evil, and you're going to be the voice of reason for your band of merry murder hobos. While reading the Champion class, a pop culture icon sort of manifested in my brain that would be a perfect sort of model, and that's Judge Dredd. Hear me out. He doesn't have a deity per se, but the law is almost his deity. Yeah. Everything he does, he has to abide by the tenets of law and order, and he is the judge, jury, and executioner of those tenets.
When I think of Paladin, when I think of Champion, I always go to Malcolm Reynolds from Firefly. Although he may not be a Paladin anymore. Actually, he just changed his Paladin deity. Right, so used to worship God. He was a God-following man, and then during the Battle of Serenity, after losing that battle, he basically lost all faith in God. So now he is the believer in humanity, right? So humanity has more become his new deity, where he has more faith in the human race than a higher power. A do-gooder, even though the actions may not be perfectly, but he has a code he follows by.
There's a few things I dig about this class that I think are good for role-playing. Much like the Barbarian, I love those anathemas. So you have a deity, and the Champion has a relationship with said deity, and there are just certain things that you can't break, you can't do. And there are tenets that you need to follow. I love that this is hard-coded into the class, and I love that it gives you this thing that you're just sort of, these rules you have to follow. I always like that stuff. I find it very sumptuous and juicy for role-playing.
Well, it gives you a direction when you're role-playing.
Yeah.
Right? You and the Game Master are working on a direction for role-play.
Yep. Yeah, the book definitely says, like, we'll get into some of the mechanics in a minute, but they tell you to work on what your anathemas are with the deity and things that you specifically can't do. And I like that. I like working with the Game Master and figuring that stuff out.
I'm excited about the causes. I like that the Paladin is a subclass in this. It makes the idea of the class more broad than just the Paladin itself, than just the do-gooder. And making that division is important. Very smart options in here. Let's break down some class mechanics for the Champion. They have Strength as their primary ability. They could supplement with that Dexterity or Charisma. This is very close to Barbarian almost, right? But Paladins are going to use some Charisma abilities with their Persuasion and their Charm, right? And plus the
Spellcasting?
Spellcasting is also used with the Charisma. Then we got some key terminology. In the key terminology, we have a Flourish action. It can only be done once per turn. We have Metamagic. Metamagic are actions that are used to enhance the properties of spells that you cast, and they must be done immediately before you cast a spell.
Gotcha. And you typically gain these through feats. And the last thing we have are Oaths, which are extra tenets that you can take and add to your Champion's code.
Let's have a moment of solemn silence for the list of proficiencies. The first feature we're going to have as a Champion is the Champion's Code. We're going to choose a tenet to abide by, and if we don't abide by this tenet, then we lose access to our focus pool and our Divine Ally.
Yes, you get Divine Ally at 3rd level, and the focus pool is for your devotion spells, which we'll cover in a little bit. The next gigantic choice you have to make as a Champion is choosing the deity that you follow. We are not going to cover all of them in this video. There are too many of them, but Right now, we're going to have them all pop up on screen. Feel free to take a peek at them, pause, gawk, figure out which one sounds coolest to you.
Cue the Halo theme.
So when you're choosing a deity, you must follow the tenet that you've chosen, which in the core rulebook is good.
Yes.
You can't be evil. We believe that gets added in the Advanced Player's Guide, but you don't have to worry about it now.
Each deity allows a specific alignment. So the cause that you choose needs to follow any one of those alignments for that deity.
As long as the follower's alignment matches up with what you're trying to choose, you're good to go.
It's basically like the deity's here and your tenet has to follow it, and your cause has to follow it. If you have any other variation in there, like you can't be an evil paladin, so you're not gonna, if you could choose the evil tenet, then we're not gonna be choosing the paladin cause because they don't work.
Your cause is determined by your alignment, and it must match your alignment exactly.
All right, let's quickly go over some of the causes there, Wolf. We have the Paladin cause, which is basically your goody two-shoes. You cannot break the law, you must follow the law. You need to act honorably. You need to act in the interest of others, and you also cannot lie or cheat.
And you have to be lawful good. If you're neutral good, your cause is that of a redeemer. You are all about forgiveness and redemption. Instead of dishing out holy vengeance, you will try to redeem someone first and foremost. That is always going to be your first action rather than trying to kill bad guys or mete out some damage. You're always looking for the best in people. And finally, we have the Liberation Cause, which is all about freedom. You are going to be fighting for people's freedoms. You are going to be freeing people that are enslaved, and you are fighting for people's freedom of choice. With your deities and causes, you have actions that can be opposed to your faith, your tenets. And if you do this, this is anathema to your faith, and you will lose some of your champion powers based on what the deity would give you.
The deity you choose also has a favored weapon. It may be a crossbow, it may be your goddamn fists.
Whatever this deific weapon is, you gain access to it at level 1, even if it's uncommon. If it's a simple weapon, you move one step up on the dice chain, the little dice step as it's called.
D6 to D8, D8 to 10, D10 to D12.
Your cause is going to unlock your champion's reaction, which lets you use your reaction during your turn to do something cool in combat. The Paladin cause will give you Retribution Strike, the Redeemer cause will give you Glimpse of Redemption, and the Liberation cause will give you Liberating Step.
Your cause is also going to give you access to your devotion spells, which use focus points to cast some pretty dope paladin spells.
At level 1, that is going to be Lay on Hands, which is the same for all the causes.
A great list of spells to use, Lay on Hands.
Much like the Bard, you're going to get a pool of focus points. You start with 1. You can never have more than 3. And if you want to regain them, you have to focus on a prayer or talk to your deity for 10 minutes, and you'll regain that focus point.
Talk to my deity.
No matter what cause you choose, you're going to unlock the shield block, which is getting the shield block feat, which lets you use your reaction to raise a shield and do cool things.
It's the dab feat. So let's start our day in the life as a champion. We might wake up, probably go to the Temple of Aurori, say a few words to our god, ask for guidance, might go around and grab some holy water, grab some healing potions, maybe aid some people who need assistance in accordance with our cause.
Yeah, some self-discipline. After prepping for the day, we are tasked with finding out what our next quest is going to be, which finds our paladin champion researching historical texts in a basement of a religious monastery. We open up some books and we accidentally read out an incantation that releases a ghost commoner into the room, and battle ensues. So, Kamo, how can we deal with this ghost commoner in combat as a paladin champion?
I think because we feel a little guilty making an honest mistake in summoning this thing, we're just gonna immediately try to attack it and try to swat it out like a fly. But we forget that it's a ghost, and our sword just slices right through it, and also right through the textbooks behind it on the nearby bookshelf, slicing some very important historical documents. Not so good to our anathema.
Wah, 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 wah.
On the ghost turn, they decide they want to attack the barbarian. You cast out Retributive Strike, and it gives them some resistance against the attack, as well as allowing you to attack during that reaction.
Because we're close enough to attack.
Because we're close enough.
When it comes back to our turn, we decide to use our devotion spell, Lay on Hands, which is going to do 1d6 damage to the ghost, and then it's going to have to make a check, and if it fails that, it's going to get a minus to its armor class for 1 round. And then when it comes back to us on our final turn, that holy water that we bought earlier, we are going to pop open them corks and start splashing holy water all over that ghost. Oh, you get that thing.
Oh yeah.
Fucking flicking it.
So we've dispatched the ghost, and now the barbarian and the alchemist are in a heated argument about what the text means that we discovered. As the paladin champion, we insert our voice of reason.
We act as a mediator, and we get both sides to agree on a hopeful outcome.
Lock that shit down.
We earned a little coin from researching those documents, so we're going to head back to the city. There's a traveling merchant that has some holy brass knuckles for sale, and that is going to be our deific weapon for Aurori. We're going to buy those. Oh yeah, trying them on. Knuckle dusting time.
So we get back to town. The rest of the party is going to go off to the tavern to do some fun stuff. And we're going to go off to the Temple of Aurori. We're going to ask the priestess if she could possibly cast the atonement ritual for us tomorrow, because we're going to try to atone for our book-slaying ways.
I love it. That was such a great, fun day in the life of a champion. Let's make some assumptions.
Let's.
Everyone on YouTube loves that.
If you like our content and you'd like to keep up with us, pledge your oath to the Basic Liches. Please hit that subscribe button. Toll the dead for notifications.
If you want to connect with the Liches, head on down past the nether region into that comment section and drop us some love down there. We'd love to hear from y'all. Next, we want to get into some pros and cons of the champion class, as we perceive them as complete and utter noobs.
I think it's great that we have causes. It divides the class into more than just a paladin. And plus we get some really great reaction skills, which it feels like we're always defending our party against what the enemies are doing. Yeah, you want to be the defender. The paladin is the defender.
I do have some cons about the champion. I've never been enamored with playing the White Knight, the Holy Avenger. That's not really my jam. You can technically play any alignment you want as a champion. The book says that you can do that. But the choices laid out for you are all based on having good tenets and being of good alignment. Yes, I understand in the Advanced Player's Guide you can be evil, but I wish there were more options in the core rulebook.
I'm actually going to give this one to 5e players that really enjoy a lot of spells. The 5e Paladin, you get basically all your spells at level 2.
Yep.
That you can choose from, right? Whereas the Pathfinder 2nd edition, we're just going to get spells as we go. We start with spells at the beginning,
Sure.
but there's a lot less.
You're more of a melee character
Yes.
than a paladin is. And
What you're choosing to do is more than spells, which is a pro or a con for either way. You know,
Yep.
You want to feel more like a melee class in Pathfinder. Who's going to like playing this class?
I think the target audience for the champion is the person that wants to be a hero with a capital H. You want to be the defender of the innocent. You want to be the person that is righteous and just and heroic, and you want to feel like a good guy.
I feel like this is a great party leader. I feel like whatever cause this champion has should be kind of what the cause the rest of the party is helping to achieve. The role player is going to love this.
Just gonna say that.
The melee role player is going to love this. Someone who loves to be in the thick of things as well as role play with their companions and NPCs.
Game masters out there, we got some tips and loving for you. If you got a champion at the table, Kamo, take us away with some tips.
If you have a champion in your party, make sure you differentiate between them and the cleric. I like thinking of the champion or the paladin as having the weight of the world on their shoulders and the amount of responsibility that they have to keep to their oath. The sacrifices that they've made, maybe the mistakes that they've made in the past that they need to redeem for, or vengeance done onto someone who's done some huge wrongdoing. That if they don't carry out that vengeance, then the weight of the responsibility of that enemy not defeated is going to weigh on them constantly. We really need to bring in those role-playing themes with their deity, following their deity, making sure they're keeping to their tenets, and stay close to their edicts, stay close to their causes. keeping them on track and doing the right thing and always challenging them with things that might break those oaths.
I agree with all of that. I think the most important part of being a game master with this is working with your champion. Work on them with their deity and what their anathemas are going to be. Just work out how they want to interact with their deity. How important that's going to be at every single time you guys sit at the table. I think it's really important, personally, and I would want to work with that player to make sure that they are really enjoying that part of the class. But whatever their god is, make sure that that deity is playing into your campaign in some way. Make sure that there are temples of that deity. Make sure that they can recruit followers to that deity. They can preach the word of them. On top of that, there should just be religious things that they should be able to interact with. When they're out exploring, maybe they find some ancient burial grounds, or maybe they find some holy artifacts. Make sure that they're using their love of religion as well as their physical attributes. You want to hit them with all the different pillars. And then in downtime, they don't just have to be praying and stuff. The book even mentions this. Maybe they have a hobby. They don't just have to be that goody two-shoe character. Give them something else to do, something that motivates them. Because they are devoted to their deities, but they're still people. Also, make sure that there are some undead and just really nasty, evil monsters in your campaign for them to smite and murder and feel great when they wipe them off the face of Galarian. All right, we're going to rank real quick how difficult we think the champion class is to play at low level.
What do you think? I think 2.
It's a 2 for me.
Yeah.
This seemed pretty similar to the Bard class in that you get those pool of focus points with your devotion spells. You get a few different feats. Yeah, you have your I think understanding the connections, like you said, that 3-pronged connection between like your tenets, your deity, and your alignment.
Yes.
So just figuring that little triforce out, that's really the only difficulty there.
That is the most difficult thing to understand. And it really is just, you choose your deity, and both your cause and your tenet has to fall in line with that, and they need to be on perfect alignment.
Yes. And then the alignment you have is what determines your cause.
Yep.
That's really the whole class in a nutshell. It's not that bad.
And then you get some really cool extra features. And there's not a lot of mechanics to remember after that. Final thoughts on the champion class, and let's relate it a little bit to 5e. What do you like about it?
This feels very different from a 5th edition Paladin. The champion is its completely unique beast compared to that.
Very closer to a fighter. We're like enforcing our religion a little bit, right?
A little bit.
We are the recruiter.
That's why I like Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
I really enjoy how hard-coded the relationship between the deity and the champion is. Your champion's code. You have to follow those tenets. You have to follow those oaths. I love that for role-playing. Yeah, sure, in 5th edition you have your oath that you take, but it's at 3rd level. For your first couple levels, you don't have to worry about that stuff. Here, it's right off the bat, super important, and I think that it feels more important than it does in 5th edition, and I like that. Because again, this is not a class that I'm really drawn to playing in either game. But I really like what Pathfinder 2E has done here. Overall, I really, really dig it. If I played a few other classes first, I think I would eventually be like, I'm going to try a champion. I think this is pretty fun.
What I really like about this is that it doesn't feel like the melee cleric. This is describing it and building it more like a fighter, like a barbarian, closer to those, with the addition of being able to cast your holy spells with your devotion
spells. Yeah. And we've covered the barbarian, and these two feel completely different. If we were at the table and you were playing a barbarian and I was a champion, I still feel like I would have something unique to bring to each and every session.
Definitely. You would be focused on the defending, the enforcing, the debuffing, the buffing, protecting allies, where the barbarian's just in there jumping, leaping across, throwing things, hacking and slashing. Yep. It's a very different play for 2 different melee classes. But you both have anathemas.
Yeah, you have codes to live by.
For the barbarian, it's a little easier for them to get rid of their anathema. They can just take a nap. And then for the champion, it's a big deal breaking their oath with their deity.
Yeah.
They need a full day and a ritual with another person who can cast that ritual with them to be able to atone yourself.
That's at least how we understand it.
So overall, if you're coming from 5e, you're going to feel less like a caster and more like a martial. I feel like that's the biggest difference between those two systems.
If you want to check out another video, click here. If you want a playlist of some more Pathfinder 2e content, click there. And that's all we got for the champion class. We are indeed the champions, our friends. And we'll keep on fighting till the end. We are the champions. We are the champions. No time for losing.
You sound like...
We are the champions. Good night.
Good night.